Hey filmmakers, how you doing? This is John Fuentes. Welcome back to Big Films, the home of action-packed blockbuster filmmaking. Today we're going to discuss how you use the VFX files from the Blockbuster Starter Pack in PowerDirector. Let's go, let's get this started. Hey guys, welcome to Big Films tutorial in PowerDirector. Today we got a fun one. We're going to jump right into this here. As you can see, I got PowerDirector open, and you might recognize this scene here from our Blockbuster Starter Pack, our promo video. There's a shot in there of the Thor scene. So we got a lot of emails of people asking us, how did we build this scene, and can we show you how to do it in PowerDirector? So here we are. In our scene here, you can kind of see our actor here, Special K. We put a casting call for a method actor because, you know, we had no budget, and he said if it's free, it's me, and he can definitely hold the pose of a Statue of Liberty. That was his motivation. So right there you can see him holding it there, and just like the Statue of Liberty, Special K is going to welcome us into a very awesome tutorial. So as I scroll through this here back to the top of my scene, I just want to kind of bring to your attention, before you start editing with your VFX, you want to make sure your scenes are locked. So if you have any adjustments to do, you want to center stuff, you want to do that before you add your VFX into your shot. You don't want to sort of add them in and then you got to go edit the scene again and undo all the hard work that you did. But my scenes are locked. We're ready to get this going. So I'm going to jump over to my VFX folder here that I created in PowerDirector. I already imported our files from the Blockbuster Starter Pack to build this scene. So as I kind of scroll through this here, I'm seeing what's happening in the scene here. What is the narrative scene? We have our hero raising the hammer, calling down the lightning and the thunder from the sky, and he's commanding it, right? He's like, he has a really dramatic thrust of the hammer to an apex where the lightning's going to come and strike it. So this is kind of where we want to set our cursor here in our timeline and drag and effect right into that spot right there. We're going to trim it down, lock it to the scene like that. So as I kind of scroll through it, it's already looking pretty cool, right? So here you can see the lightning looking nice and everything, but the only issue I have right now with this is that it's the screen direction here, right? So this is really important as you're building out your scenes. When you're looking at your screen direction, it's going from right to left, right? It's sort of looking flat here. So everything's happening on this side of the screen and nothing is over here. And it's not really stimulating cinematically and visually into what we want to tell this narrative, right? So one way you can fix that is just by rotating this around. The way you do that is by double clicking on the file, and you can see this project, this effects panel opens up here in the middle of our project windows. And this is awesome about PowerDirector. It creates this effect panel here where you can edit the effect or your shot right in the effects panel itself. So you can see here this tab advanced is highlighted. If I went to express, it kind of gave me less control of our effects. We want to make sure you're in the advanced tab so you have more control of your effects panel here. So we want to rotate this around. There's a few ways you can do that. You can kind of scroll down here. You can see a rotation here where you can just change it and flip it, or even more in an easier way, you can see where you have the crosshair here, and right here you can see it highlight where it's highlight this little rotation thing going on with the arrows. So now rotate it and flip it around and looking pretty good, right? So now we have a better screen direction here. Now we have a more cinematic screen direction telling this narrative of this particular scene coming from left to right. Think about how your audience is experiencing the scene the way you did when you watched this video for the first time. It had this really wow factor, right? So it's pretty cool too, because as you look at it, it's creating almost levels here, almost like a 3D layer, right? It looks much better, more cinematic and more organic to the scene. So as you do that and position it, you're looking pretty good. You're getting it right over with the hammer. Let's kind of scale it up a bit. Looking nice. Get it right over our little hammer and our hero. So in this shot here, our hero is really far from us, right? He looks like a little dot on that thing. So what we highlighting here is more of the effect, right? And bringing the tension here. So in this glow of our lightning here, you can see that it's sort of a white luminous glow, which is pretty cool. But at the same time, you can kind of see there's some black artifacts there, and that's because when you're looking at this glow, you're looking at it in the normal view. What you want to do is kind of blend this more organically into the scene. So for this particular scene, this glow isn't working for us. In a different scene, it will work fantastic. Like if you're, you know, Darth Sidious and you have electricity coming out your hands, that flashy glow in space looks pretty dope, you know. But in this particular scene here, in when you're looking at our colors and what's going on here, we want to blend this in more organically. So we're going to change our blend mode from normal. You can see it's set to normal and it's in the normal view. You want to get the drop down menu and come down the screen, and as you can see, it blends nicely. It kind of gets rid of a little bit of the black artifacts that are there, and it blends in really nice and organic to a scene as if it was there when we shot this scene. So that's looking pretty awesome. You want to press OK. And let's see what that's looking like here. Kind of scroll through it. Like he's like erase the hammer. Bam, the lightning's coming down. Man, that looks really nice. All right, so what's happening next? So we have a reaction with the lightning hitting the hammer, and here we have this really cool cloud with little electricity happening in there. So I scroll through, you can kind of preview your effect before you drag it into your timeline. That's looking good. So let's take it, let's drag it into the timeline here, and it's good. Kind of bring this over a bit, looking nice. Boom, right? So now you can see here when I place that right there, our effect is kind of more off center there, right? So we're going to double click on that file here and bring up our effects panel, and we can just kind of bring this right over where the hammer is at. That's looking good. Now remember, we're a little further away from our hero, so maybe we can kind of scale this down a bit, just kind of make it a little bit smaller so it's not overwhelming the scene there. Let's find where our hammer is, looking really nice. And because it's a smoke effect and a glow effect, we can change our blend mode. So just keep in mind, blend modes, you know, when you're changing your blend modes, you want to use that for like glows and smoke and lighting type effects, right? Changing the blend modes can really blend those type of effects really nicely and organically into your scene. But what you don't want to do is if you have a VFX file like with bullets, like something that's solid like a rock and bullet, a building, a car, a tank, you don't want to play with the blend modes there, because then if you do change the blend mode, you kind of lose some of the artifacts of those solids and it blends it into your scene, doesn't look right. But with these glows and stuff like that, yeah, we want to kind of make it a little bit more blendy and organically into our scene, which is looking pretty dope, right? So let's press OK. That looks pretty good, and let's see what's happening here, right? It's like looking good. Boom, that looks sweet, right? Now after that little kind of like explosion, like reaction, the hammer happens there, like, you know, like what else is going on there, right? So we have like the hammer's heating up, and you can see that here we have a glow effect from the laser pack. So this is pretty interesting about our packs. We wanted to design it to where you can use it a lot of different ways and have a lot of different applications to it. So as you can see, this laser here could be obviously used for a laser gun, right? Or it could be used as a thruster for a ship, a spaceship, or an engine, something like that, you know, or even like heat vision. So there's so many different ways you can use our effects here. So it's all about how you imagine it working into your scene. So let's kind of bring that into a scene here, kind of trim it down to there. And it's looking good. So now we have our glow effect coming on. Let's bring that back out. I want to trim it from the front side, actually. Looking good. Boom, there. Let's do this. Bring it there. Looking nice. Okay, so now you can see the glow. We got obviously position it. You can do it from here just like that. But what I like to do is just open up our effects panel window, because there's a few other things we want to do with that. So we find where the hammer's at, bring it over, right? If sometimes with the mouse you can't get it exactly where you want it, you can use the arrows on your keyboard, which I'm doing right now, and it's changing the values of the position, which just look pretty good. It's kind of get it more pinpoint to where you want it. So as you can see, it's an orange glow, but our lightning has more of a white bluish glow to it, and that's because we need to change the blend mode again. Remember, our glow is a glow effect, right? So in our blend mode set to normal, and we set it to screen, and now it seems like it blends naturally and organically, like almost like when you kind of look at these effects, the lightning, the reaction, and the glow is all just one chain reaction of things happening there. So it's looking pretty dope. And this is how we edit our first shot of that promo video, just like that. We drag and drop, sort of like we stacking downward in PowerDirector, like we kind of built downwards, which is quite interesting. At first it was weird for me, but it's actually pretty cool, you know. And so now let's move on to the next scene. So in the next scene here, you can see that we're closer to Special K, right? We can see more detail. You can probably even see his smile in there, right? So the other thing that's happening here is the camera is rotating around Special K, right? So he's standing still in the middle shot and the camera is moving. So that's going to be an indication of some things that we got to do in our editing process when we start placing some of the effects, which we'll get to in a moment. But the first thing we want to do is like we want to rebuild what we did in the first scene. So let's get our lightning coming down, striking the hammer. So this was a good choice here. Figured this would be nice, a little bit different than the first one, because we had a different angle. We seen it from in a different way. So when we place that into the scene, you can see it kind of just dropped right all over the scene, which obviously we have to position it. You can easily do it that way, or you can double click on the file like I like and kind of bring it like that. So remember how I talked about screen direction? As you can see, the lightning is coming from left to right, but because we're on a different angle, right, we want to sort of rotate this where it's coming more vertical, right? It kind of matches what we have in the first shot. Right, so you want to think just like what makes sense. You want to think cinematically. You don't want to bring attention to your effect and be like, what, that doesn't look right. You know, you want to just like make it seem so organic, like, man, dude, like, how do you guys get lightning coming down from the sky? Like, you guys are rainmakers and stuff like that, you know. So I'm placing this here. It's looking pretty nice. Now remember, camera is moving through the scene and our actor is still, right? So as we lay the effect over a shot here and we scroll through it, you're going to see how the effect at right about here is going to drift away from the hammer. Okay, so what this is telling us is, okay, we got a keyframe here, and to make sure that it maintains contact with the hammer as we kind of go through the shot and the camera's rotating. Now in PowerDirector, keyframing is really simple and easy. There's two functions in this effects window that is really cool. Right here in our position, we have a clock that has a keyframe button right here. You can press that. Or right here on our timeline, you can see you have a keyframe here too. So let's keyframe this. But what I like to do is sort of like, let's go to the top of the scene and let's keyframe it from here so it's consistent. So you press the keyframe and you can see that the little keyframe pops up right here in your little timeline here, and here is where the hammer and the lightning is touching for the first time in this particular shot. And as we scroll through it, it's moving, it drifts. Right, we want to bring it back, and as soon as you move it, once you create sort of like an animation, you can see the other keyframe pops up right there. So that's good. That's what we want. Moving. Let's bring it right back. Boom, another keyframe. Moving, it's drifting a bit. Okay, let's bring it right back, and it's looking good, real good. Now that's looking sweet. Now we're at the end of the scene. Let's kind of bring it back. So now that we keyframed it, you want to scroll back through it just to make sure that it's doing exactly what you want, that it maintains contact, because you can see right about there, that looks good, right? But let's say, hey, let me use my keyboard here, my arrows, bring it a little bit more. Boom, that looks sweet. You can see a keyframe popped up. So remember, you have keyframe your position here. You can scale things. You can keyframe how big and small you want them, your opacities. And or up here you can keyframe in your position. You have your values of where your position's at. You can keyframe and set your scale marks and keyframe marks through there. So that's pretty good. It's looking good. So now the lightning again, right? It's like kind of like this really darker blue, and we want it to match this the way it was in the previous shot. So we want to, and it's a glow, so we want to change our blend mode from normal, as you can see in the normal view, to screen mode. And as you can see, it looks even so much better in the screen mode. It's pretty dope, right? All right, so let's press OK. That's looking good. And as you scrub through it, it's maintaining the illusion of contact, and that's looking sweet. So now the next thing we want to add on this here is our little kind of smoke cloud on the hammer as it was heating up, right? So we sort of repeating the process from the previous scene in this particular scene too. So now you see that, like, once we lay that in, it's all the way down here. We want to open up. We want to move this up to where the hammer's at. That's looking pretty cool. And as you can see here, you know, what I want to do is change the blend mode right away, right? Because I want to see through the effect a little bit. So in this normal view, the smoke is sort of blocking the hammer a bit. And I want to make sure that I'm placing this right. So I'll change it from normal to screen. And now I can kind of see a little bit more detail. I even see this hand and the hammer being raised there. So that's looking pretty good, right? So you want to just like, listen, that looks nice. And let's scroll through the scene. Just make sure that it's right where you want it to be. So you can see as I get over here, the these little particles of lightning drift off to the side. So let's kind of just bring it right back about there. So it's like looking good, right? Yeah. Boom. And boom. Nice. That looks beautiful, right? And this is exactly how we did it, guys, just like this. Okay, so we press OK. That looks good. So the next thing we want to add our laser effect, right? It's the hammer is glowing and it's heating up and it's looking cool. So let's bring it down. I'm going to trim it from the top, kind of bring it about there, and then bring it in like about there, right? So let's see what's going on. Yeah, that looks good. We can slide it over just a bit, stretch it out a little bit more, and it's looking sweet. Now we have our constant glow. Okay, so now obviously when we open this up here, we're like, okay, just like the lightning, we're gonna have to keyframe that so the glow can stay on the hammer itself. So we move it up to the hammer, and that's looking good. Okay, maybe we can scale it up, even make it a little bigger, or maybe just right about there, right? So let's see what's happening here. Glow, boom, that looks good. Now, as I scroll through the shot again, right? As I get here, see how the glow is drifting away from the hammer? So what we need to do here is keyframe that, right? So maybe I'll press the keyframe from here, have a position here, press keyframe. You got your keyframe coming up there, and we're gonna scroll through it. That's looking good, right? And now I'm using the arrow on my keyboard just to make sure that it's maintaining contact with the hammer. And I see the keyframe pops up. Let's continue to go down through it. Nice. Let's bring it back. Bring it back. Nice. Let's bring it back. Looking good. Okay, right about there's the end of the shot. Okay, so now I got a hammer. Oh, that's good. So we have our orange glow. We want to match the glow from the previous shot, right? And also make it look more organic to our scene and the lighting that's striking. So we changing our blend mode from normal to screen, and now it's looking cool. Actually, the glow itself is a little bit brighter. It's pretty nice. So let's see what that's looking like. Let's kind of go through it. Yeah, looks good. Press OK. Let's make sure it looks good. Sometimes you gotta get rid of some of those. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Oh man, that's right on point, guys. Looking sweet. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so now we repeated the process from the previous screen, right? The shot right here to here. That looks good. Now let's add some more flair to it. Let's make this scene pop a little more, make it more dynamic. So we got some smoke effect happening here, right? So we want to probably, like, you know, so all the light is coming down, it's heating up, and it's creating this little reaction here of smoke. Maybe his body's touching the ground here, maybe the ground around him is heating up. So let's kind of go to this kind of really cool blast effect. As you can see here in this blast effect, this is from the blast folder and the Blockbuster Starter Pack, and it has a lot of different applications, right? This can be from a bomb to a cloud to some mist in the field, whatever you want, right? Some smoke coming out the nostrils and all, whatever you want, whatever you can see yourself doing with this, you can do it, man. That's the great diversity of our effects here. So let's kind of drag and drop that down to here and trim it down to, oops, excuse me. We're going to trim it down to our shot. It's looking good. Now, of course, here, remember how I talk about blend modes and smoke effects, right? So you can see the smoke looks a little black in our shot here, which is okay because smoke, you know, does look black, right? But for what we needed to change the blend mode so it blends more organically to our scene. We set it to screen, and you can see now it's kind of a white matching the white that was there. So as you kind of scroll through it, you can see, boom, right? Like it's just really looking sweet. It's sort of like looking nice, right? So it's not too much attention to it. It's subtle but effective, and that's pretty cool. And that's what you want. That's what you want with your effects. You don't want to bring attention to it. You want it to drive your story, make it look pretty dope. Okay, so the next thing is going on here. What else is happening here, right? So let's add some more electricity effects. So check this out. This is pretty cool. This is kind of like some electric sparks going on. Let's drag and bring that into our timeline here. Bring it to the top of the scene. Let's see what's happening here. Okay, so now here, let's double click on the effect itself. Kind of brings us closer here as this effect panel pops up. And let's move this around. Let's adjust it. Maybe we could even make it bigger. Kind of adjust it a bit. Let's see what we get about right there. So you can see these little arcs right there. We're gonna bring that wrapping around him and stuff like that, right? So, you know, since, you know, Special K here working for free, he's kind of slim there. He's not eating much. So yeah, I want to kind of make sure right about there. And I'm gonna kind of squeeze this down almost like it's fitted for him. Looking pretty cool. There it is. So that's real simple, right? Like, cool. It just maintains contact with his body, but it's kind of erratically going all over the place. And again, this is a lightning effect, glow effect, so you want it to match the other lightning colors here. So we're going to change our blend mode from normal to screen, just like that. Nice, real simple. Next, we want to grab this effect here. Now, what's cool about this effect, right? It's like a lot of things are happening here. It has about 3 strands of lightning, but in the middle of it, it could be like, this is where the source is coming from, right? So imagine like you're looking straight up to the sky in a cloud, and this is from with a camera view coming straight at you, right? And it's pretty cool, like you're right under it. But in this case, we can use it for this is just sort of like crashing around his body, right? It's like it's coming from his body here. So let's kind of squeeze this down a bit, trim it down to size, open up our effect panel, and now let's look at what's happening here. Okay, boom, that looking good. I like that. Let's kind of, maybe we can scale this up even some more. So you see how the scaling kind of work, and he could be in the middle of where these arms are sort of generating from, the genesis of it. And like that's great. Kind of bring it more like that. That looks good. And then we want to change our blend mode from normal, because you've seen it in its normal view, to screen. And now it's really popping off here. It's really look like more organic to the scene here. It's looking good. I'm loving it, guys. Bam. Cool. So you want to just take the time to really see how these things are interacting with your scene organically, you know, naturally. So it has that little wow factor, right? So like, for example, maybe we should scale it back down. We're kind of bring it closer to him. So this way it looks like it's touching his body, right? It's not, it looks like it's the source. Yeah, that looks better. That's a whole lot better, guys, right? Okay, so few other steps we did when we built this scene here. We add some little more like destruction that you can see here. This is some amber, right, and debris. So out in the field, he's standing in this field, and it's like all this stuff is going on around him. So imagine all this lightning and electricity flashing everywhere, and the wind's kicking up, and it's kicking up some debris. So in our destruction folder of the Blockbuster Starter Pack, you're going to see different files there that has stuff like this where you can use it for different purposes. So in our case, we're going to use, instead of using it for amber, like, you know, like let's say if the forest fire, a building's on fire, and amber's going through the sky, we're going to create debris kind of flying through the air. Okay, that looks pretty cool. So let's open up our effects panel, and you can see it's not much we want to do is except for one thing, right? You can see the colors. The colors aren't like sort of match what we want. So we want to kind of come down to our blend mode, and here also, here these are glows, these are lights, right? So we want to go from normal to screen, and now it blends in a little bit better. Looks good, you know. And as you scrub through the scenes, like it's just very subtle but pretty cool. And the last thing we probably want to add to this is another, maybe let's see here, right? So here is a little bit more amber, just like a little in different directions, a little bit smaller and different color here, but it can look like snow and mist or something like that. And drag and drop, bring it right under effect here, kind of bring it down, trim it. Looks nice. Let's open it up. Let's just make sure that it's looking very organic to our scene. And because of the colors and all, you don't really have to mess with this one pretty much, right? And that's the great combination of it. So as you can see, there's a lot of different ways you can use the effects, but this is pretty much, guys, how we shot our scene, you know, for our promo video. Nice and easy, drag and drop, stacking downward here in PowerDirector, you know, playing with blend modes on our glows and smokes to kind of create a more organic effect in the scene and make it look more real and more engaging wow factor. So really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Can't wait to show you the next one. Thank you guys, and we really appreciate it. Hope you had some fun. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Really hope that you enjoyed the tutorial. Make sure you subscribe, like, click on the bell icon so you could be alerted when the next one comes out. Also, when we share the good news of our new VFX packs coming out pretty soon. Remember the 3 cardinal rules of filmmaking. You are what you write, you are what you shoot, and you are what you edit. So with that said, go out there and make big films. See you soon.